Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girija. My name is Girija Patel. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am a podcaster. I am an educator. I am a businesswoman. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girija, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girija and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat. Are you ever in the crossroads of parenthood and your career, and your heart is tugging you in both directions because you feel like you don't have a choice at all to do with both together, but you have to choose one over the other? Well, my guest today, Abbey Ashley, will tell you that she did not have to choose between motherhood and career. Abbey is running a very successful business, The Virtual Savvy, where she's training virtual assistants on how to launch and start their businesses from scratch. Her story is inspiring and really changing the narrative of the social limitations that we put on ourselves that you have to choose one over the other or you can't do it all. So welcome to Law Chat with Girija, Abbey. I'm so excited to have you here today. I know we have been doing back and forth a lot, just trying to get our, date down also, but I'm just so happy that you're here today sharing this story because I think it's so important, especially for working moms, working parents in general, that you don't have to choose one over the other. You can have it both.
100%. And I'm really excited. Thank you for having me here. This is a message that I feel so passionately for. And I'm really excited to dig into my story. I hope that it inspires you. And I'm just excited to be here.
I'm sure it will. So I want to know how you got here, though. What I mean by that is I know it wasn't easy and you were very candid about it also. So how did you start and where did your journey begin?
For sure. So let me just take you back a little bit to 2015 Abbey. 2015 Abbey was pregnant with my second child. And, I had quit my job to be a stay-at-home mom with my first. My kids are 22 months apart. So this is not a very long timeline here. And if I was being honest, I was bored. I was really bored. We were living in a basement apartment in Northern Virginia, a very expensive place to live. My husband was having to drive 2.5 hours to work, 2.5 hours back from work. So I was at home, pregnant with my daughter in this tiny apartment with no light and just feeling, it was kind of a tough time. And I was looking for something to put my creativity into. I'd gotten a degree in marketing. I had done some work in public relations in a few different areas. And I was just sitting at home, playing with kid toys, and I loved my daughter and I was so excited for my second child to come, but there was something else missing. Additionally, we could have used the finances as well. My husband's job paid well, but it was definitely not exactly a good salary in Northern Virginia. He'd actually taken a huge pay cut about a year earlier. So we were just looking, and I tried a lot of different things kind of in my searchings for a way to make money from home. I sold jeans on eBay for a little while. I would tug my daughter to a thrift store, look through designer jeans and resell them. I sold textbooks. I did freezer meals for a while and nothing really took off. Nothing was really as flexible as I needed it to be. And none of them were truly that scalable, at least at that point in my journey. And so a friend actually suggested that I look into virtual assistants. And once I didn't even know what that was, to be honest. But once I looked into what is a virtual assistant, how could I help other small business owners with admin or creative or marketing tasks, all from working at home. I could do this at 2 a.m. if I need to. Like, this is amazing. This is what I need. I don't have to leave the house, but I can still leave the house if I want to, unlike a normal 9 to 5. And, this whole world of possibility opened up for me. So I did what I do, which is I'm a quick start. So the next day I started calling myself a virtual assistant. I printed off some business cards and I, went to some local networking meetings, and it was insane. I mean, the clients just started coming once I told people what I was doing. And that was one of the first things. I wasn't shy at all. I told everyone what I was doing, and the clients just started coming in. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm going to have a baby like really soon. I'm going to need some other people to help me if I'm going to keep up with all this client work. I kind of built this thing, and then I was like, oh, how am I going to sustain this while I'm, having another child? And so I actually just got some of my friends who were also moms to do some of the work. And I didn't realize I was subcontracting, but that's what I was doing. And I almost built this little mini agency working from my basement apartment there in Northern Virginia. It continued to grow. It ended up, replacing my old income from my previous job. I quit my nannying job that I was doing at the time to get out of the house a few days a week. I then ended up, making more than my husband was making at his full-time government job. And, it got to the point where this thing continued to grow and grow. And people started asking me, Abby, how did you do this? Like, what is happening here? So in 2016, I launched an online course, late 2016, December. So basically 2017, I launched an online course about 2 years later that taught other people how to do the same thing, that taught other people how to start at-home virtual assistant businesses because people were asking. So I had 16 people buy that first time, brought them through the process of how to start an online freelancing virtual assistant business, and reinvested that money into some marketing, some organic marketing methods, and just continued to grow and grow and grow. And we look back now and it's so crazy because just a few years later, I have 20 full-time employees now. We have a Facebook community of 70,000 virtual assistants. We've had thousands of people go through the course at this point, and it's insane. Like, some days I blink and I'm like, how did this all happen? But yeah, that's my story. There's a lot more ups and downs, of course, that happened in the midst of it. It was not as easy as it sounds in a quick story, but I always like to tell the quick recap so you kind of know where I am now and where I came from.
Well, we'll definitely we'll dig into the challenges in just a bit, but I have so many questions. First of all, congratulations. That's fantastic. Being able to grow in just 2 years, even to a point where you're like, oh, I can teach others now on how to do this. It's quite substantial of a growth at that point as well. And I also love your determination and grit throughout this whole thing, because I know there's a lot of times where a lot of us are just trying to figure it out still. And we're still in that season of figuring it out. You might be doing something and it may seem like it's going really well, but you're still not in it like 110%. So during the season where you were still figuring it out and you were doing the nanny job, you were trying to go to the thrift store and get those jeans, or, create those frozen prepackaged meals. Were you doing them all together, or did you just do like a jump?
Oh, I was jump. It was all over the place. And, I find people a lot who were very similar to me, who are just like, I'm a little all over the place. I'm a little bit here. I'm a little bit there. And first of all, a lot of times we'll like beat ourselves up for that. We'll, like get down. Oh, I just can't stick to anything. I'm a first person who starts things, but doesn't see them through. I mean, that's naturally my personality. If I'm being honest, I'm not naturally a person who finishes what I start, if I'm being completely honest. But I really believe that creativity and that vision, and when you walk into a store and you say, oh, this could be better, this could be better, this could be better. Oh, what should exist? What should exist? That is a sign that you are an entrepreneur. And it can be frustrating. There's frustrating parts of it where you're like, oh, I wish that I would just stick to something and I can't make anything successful because I don't stick to anything. But know that is a gift. You are a visionary. You are a creative. And once you find the thing that you're ready to stick to, then it really, really can take off. But it's one of those things that you do have to choose something and stick to it. And if I'm being honest, any one of those businesses, I probably could have made work. But like you said, my heart wasn't in it. There was something when I found virtual assistants that it was like, this is it. This is my thing. I enjoy it. It fits my skills. I see that it's scalable, right? Like I could see the vision behind scaling it. It kind of just checked all of the boxes for me at that time in my life, and things shift over time, right? And so I think that the fact that I was like, you know what, this is the thing, that's when I went all in. And even when I got hard, or even when I got disinterested or got frustrated, I stuck with it. And I think a lot of us, we really, really find something that's good. And we're like, this is profitable. I can see that it's scalable. My heart is in it. And then when your heart goes out of it for a little while, then we're just like, oh, let me just throw it all away and start something new. But it's like, no, stick with it. If you really want this to grow to be something big, you'll have times where you'll be more excited and less excited about it, but stick with it, because it really, like I love what I have now. And there were growing pains. There were times where I was just so frustrated or overwhelmed. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, I love the business that I have now, the team and all of that. And I couldn't have even imagined that, I think, when I started it.
Right. And so some of the challenges that you faced, even at the time of limbo, how did you overcome those challenges? And then even the challenges you faced later on, where you were just like, oh, this is so hard, but you stuck to it and you grew. What were some of those challenges and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning, especially, there's a lot of mindset issues. I did have a degree in marketing, and I think that, and I had read a lot of marketing books. I dove into marketing. And I think that is one of the things that allowed me to excel. As far as financially, I was able to, like, getting clients wasn't necessarily a problem for me. But that doesn't mean that all of the mindset things that come along with being a beginning business owner weren't still there, right? Like, do I really have what it takes? Like, these people are entrusting me with their business. Like, am I going to be able to fulfill what they need? The mom part of it, right? Like, if I'm working with a client and my daughter's over there eating a snack and I'm not fully engaged with her while I'm working on this email, is she gonna, grow up to hate me? Like, all of the things that run that into your head. And I think that just our mind will play games with us sometimes. And I'm a huge fan of, I have to pull back every once in a while, even still with the businesses or with the challenges that I face now in the business. They look different, but it's all, most of it's mindset, most of it's confidence or fear of some kind. And I will just have to I'm a big journaler. So I will take love that. So am I. I love journaling. So I will write it down. Like, sometimes if the fears are in the back of our mind, just playing over and over, then it's really overwhelming, right? It's looming. It's behind us, but we can't fully even pinpoint. It's just oh, I'm scared. I don't even know why. But if we bring it to the forefront, we look at it head on, we write it out. This is exactly the fear that I have. And you can actually face it. Then you have a chance of combating it with truth. And so that's what I would do is, I'd write out all my fears and be like, okay, I fear that, a business is going to hand over something to me and that I'm not going to be able to fulfill it. Well, the truth of that is that I am smart. Even though I don't know everything, I can figure things out. And worst case scenario, if I mess up, it's really okay. They're handing me their social media posts. I'm not gonna, it's not gonna be the worst thing. Even if a client fired me and said, nope, this isn't a good fit, I will survive. So just facing the actual truth of what was behind the fears that were kind of looming behind me, I think, is one of the things that's carried me through in the beginning and even still as I face challenges.
I think it's so true. And I love that you said that, will I be able to do this? I think that's a very common question that all of us have, whether you're a lawyer like me, or whether you're a virtual assistant who's handling everything for their clients, or whether you are, an accountant or a graphic designer, website designer, whatever. You're always that thought process of, can I do this? Oh my gosh. how can they entrust me with all of this stuff? Am I capable? I mean, it's just even like when I get on a plane, I'm just in awe of the pilots. I'm always in awe of the pilots. I'm just like, how do they do this? And I wish I could be somebody like that, where I'm just so interested in somebody's, like,
Right.
and then I'm 100% at their mercy, like 100% when I'm sitting on that plane. I feel like, sometimes I've been really thinking about that a lot because I've been traveling a lot in the last couple months. And I'm always like, is that what people think about me? Like, is that what they're thinking about me when they come to me with their legal problems or when I'm helping them with their law stuff in their business? And then that little thing creeps in, but am I capable enough? Like, do I have enough competency? And then of course, I mean, it's the whole, like the dance that we do all the time with our brain.
100%. I know me, and I'm assuming a lot of other people, I tend to focus on the have-nots and the can-nots that I have instead of the what I can do. And I see this a lot of times with our students as well, where they'll be like, oh, well, I don't know this, I don't know this, and I don't know this. I'm like, yeah, no, you don't know those things. Like, that's reality, and that's okay that you don't know these certain things. But look at all that you do know, and they'll have an experience with, bookkeeping or social media or websites, or they're like, well, I can build websites, but and it's like, that's amazing. Like, what do you mean you can build? I can't build a website. Like, what do you like? And I think sometimes the things that come easy for us don't seem like a big deal because they come easy for us, right?
Right.
And so we don't value them as much. Even a lot of our students will start out with just answering customer service emails or, writing simple blog posts, things like that. And people don't see the value in it. Our students don't always see, like, this is incredibly valuable. No, not everyone can do this. And the value that you're bringing to this person by the time that you're giving them back. So I think there's a big part of, like, what is the value that I actually bring to the table, and looking at it just really head on is important.
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now, back to our awesome conversation. It's a fun point that you just put out there that, yes, you can do something that a lot of other people cannot do. And I think that's very common for us to think, well, if I know it, then everybody knows it. Duh, like, it's obvious. But then also you're doing something that maybe A, somebody doesn't know, or B, they don't want to do. And then you're giving that value of time back to them.
For sure.
Also the stress of doing something that they don't want to do. I think for me, that is the biggest thing. In fact, I was just talking about that with my friend this morning while we were on our walk. I'm like, having my virtual assistants has been where I don't have to do the things I'm not good at. Like, I don't want to do it. And I'm terrible at it too. So I'm spending more time learning and doing rather than doing what I do better. And so, there's so much value in that.
Yeah. And there might be people listening who are kind of in that place, who are ready to hire a virtual assistant, or, and I think that there's always challenges that come with that as well. Am I going to be a good manager? Am I good? And anybody in the beginning of their journey, I'm like, when you are facing these fears, it's not so much like facing the fear is good, and getting over the fear is important. Whatever you're facing, it's good to do that. You need to do that. But more important than you getting over this fear is you learning how to become a fear facer, because you're actually going to have to keep doing that every single step in your journey. So once you're ready to hire a virtual assistant, then all of those fears come back, right? And all those questions, and that am I enough? Once you scale your business, and then you're ready to start a second business. Oh, am I going to be able to do this? Can I handle both? Whatever it may be. And I think that it's just important that we actually learn how to face fears as a whole, even more than the act of getting over this one particular fear.
I absolutely love that. Learn to become a fear facer because you're right. They're not going to stop coming.
Mm-hmm.
Challenges are not going to stop. In fact, if you don't have challenges, you're not growing, period.
Exactly.
But I love that. And I completely agree with you because the more you do it, the more you become confident to tackle those fears, even though it might be overwhelming and it might be like scary, but you're like, I can do it. I've done it so many times in the past.
Yep.
And so you become better at facing those fears. And every time you also realize that, man, I can do this. I can absolutely do this. And I always ask my guests that come on and like, what is your anchor when you are facing those fears? And so, and I always say, lean on that anchor, whatever that anchor is, lean on it because that's what's holding you steady. So for you, what is your anchor?
I mean, I'm a believer, I'm Christian. And so I think that my faith in God has been a huge staple, as well as my friends and family who believe in me. I mean, that's been huge as well. I'm blessed to have an incredibly supportive husband, which I know everybody doesn't have. And like you said, you've got to lean on the anchor that is provided for you and whatever that may be. But it's always been super reassuring that anytime I'm having those doubts or those fears that I can come to him and he can reassure me, give me tough love, pray for me potentially, right? I mean, I think that all of those things has been huge.
Yeah, I love that. And I completely agree with you. Like one of my anchors is God as well. So I'm just like, actually the only anchor. Everything else is like support system that I've been provided in life. And I just love it. But I completely agree with you. So as you're, going through these different challenges and then you started your virtual assistant business in the beginning, what were some of the challenges that you faced? And then how did you kind of keep moving forward? And
So, I mean, I'm a visionary. I can always see the big picture. Details aren't really my forte all the time. Like I love coming up with the ideas and, casting the vision. Where am I going to be 5 years from now? Oh yeah. Right. I have to think about actually the tasks for today, I guess. But what about 5 years from now, right? Yeah. And so I think there's been like the discipline to not get distracted. That's been huge. So much of the success that we've had as a company. And I tell this to people, I'm like, it's not fancy. Like, this is not fancy advice, but like, I feel like I've just stuck to this long enough to make it succeed. Right. And whenever something's gone bad, I didn't just throw out the whole business and say, oh, I'll just start from scratch. Right. I pivoted and pivot. And so I think not getting distracted is huge. I'm not naturally like a systems person either, but I had to do that in the beginning, like because I was pregnant and like had a very like hard date of when I'm going to like need to take a vacation from my business. I mean, that's something that there's people who will go 2 years and never take a break from their business. Right. Mm-hmm. And I had like 8 months to get to the point where I could take a break from my business, a true break, and let it run without me. And so I had to come up with some of those systems. I had to, hire contractors and delegate and learn how to pay them and learn how to oversee projects and hand off projects and trust other people. And so I really see that was a benefit to me because that's how we've grown and how we've scaled, right? There's so much that strategy can take you. There's so much that good marketing can take you. But once you get into being able to hire a team and having other people, that's where your potential becomes uncapped, right? And so I'm just super grateful that I got to learn that lesson really early on in my business. And it's always, not from day one, but from probably like day 30 or 40, it's been me and somebody else in the business, right? Yeah. Like it's not just been me. And I'm really grateful for that, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's such a true thing what you just said, because I feel like when we start a business, there's this thing that people are like, well, why are you spending money on things when you don't have the money to spend? Which, okay, makes sense. I agree with that. But at the same time, in order to grow, you need to spend some money to allow yourself to also focus on things that you're doing really well. Yeah. And somebody else can actually come in and help you brainstorm and take the task away from you that you're not doing amazing at, and help you grow a little bit more. And I think that was so essential even in my business. when I first started, I felt like I was wearing all the hats, and I was just like, I felt very overwhelmed, so overwhelmed that you were not seeing clearly anymore. And everything seems very cluttered in the brain. And so it was scary hiring somebody. It was scary for all the reasons you mentioned earlier. Like, will I be a good manager? Even today when I'm trying to like expand my team, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I have the systems in place? Do I look, all these ideas and barriers that are self-inflicted barriers. So, but yeah, I think, hiring somebody, your first step in hiring somebody should be done, and it should be done sooner than you think it should be done. Save up that money if you need to, but have that as an element for the near future, in my opinion. I agree with you.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about like the practice of outsourcing too. I mean, I feel like it's a muscle that can be built and be strengthened over time. And so it may be that you start just with like a one-time project too, that it's not something that's ongoing, that you're like, man, I am spending so much time trying to tweak my website and make it exactly what I want. Maybe I'll just hire somebody to come and like do the finishing touches and just take over this one-time project that has a clear beginning and end date. That way you can, you can budget for it, you can know what it's going to cost, and you just get in the practice of letting go of some things. Because once you taste that, once you're like, oh my gosh, like I just paid $500 to somebody to do exactly what I wanted, and it saved me literally like 2 weeks of work. Done. And then you can repeat that over and over and over.
And a peace of mind, in my opinion. Just like, I feel like sometimes the stress of not knowing how to do something is far more overwhelming to me than actually getting the task done.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So like, there's so much value behind that. And you're right, whether it's a one-time project or whether it's an ongoing relationship, it's something definitely. And if you were to like talk to somebody who is looking for a virtual assistant, how would you help them figure out if they need one or not? And like, what would be some of the steps that they would take?
I mean, you need one.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you.
I'm just kidding. Everyone needs one. No, I mean, you have to be at a point, and that's the thing is that, I mean, budget money is always a factor, right? And so I'm a huge fan of outsourcing. I think that you can outsource to people. You can also outsource to tools, right? So in the beginning of our business, a lot of times we outsource to tools in the sense that sending contracts and manually doing this. Let me sign up for something like HelloSign or Dubsado or whatever to sign contracts, right? And so you're already outsourcing in a sense to a tool instead of doing something manually. So that's kind of how we start. Your next hire, once you're ready for it, financially, I think is a big thing. And that's up to every person. Some people start their business and they need every single dollar that comes in. And I get that. But then that's where personal budgeting can come into play too. I think it's a conversation that we don't have a lot. Whereas, why do I have to take so much out of the business every month that I'm making? Or could some stay in and maybe I work on my personal budget a little so I don't have to take as much out so I can put some more back in? Reinvesting into the business is important. It's also important to pay yourself. I actually find that more people have trouble paying themselves than reinvesting back into the business.
Absolutely.
I guess we probably land on one or either side. So I'm also not a fan of not paying yourself any. I'm like, even if you're taking out like $100 a month, like just pay yourself something, because you'll get really, really frustrated if you're not. Okay. So then it's deciding what your actual budget is, which is something that you'll have to kind of look at yourself. Then it's kind of getting an idea of what are the tasks that I would outsource to somebody, right? Especially if it's going to be ongoing tasks. And one of the things that I love to, well, I'll be honest, I don't love to do it, but I think it's super necessary and I love the results that come from it, is to do a self-imposed time study. So I make myself do one like once a year. It's not fun. It's kind of annoying, but it's so eye-opening. And so I will literally track my time. I'll use a tool like Toggle, and I will track my time for an entire week and just see, where am I spending my time? And it is so eye-opening, because sometimes you think like, oh, I'm only spending, I spend a little bit of time every day responding to posts in my Facebook group or something, right? And then you go and you look and you're like, I spent 7 hours this week doing that, right? And it's like, wow, what could be gained if I got a community manager and I got that time back? What bigger vision things, what higher level tasks could I be doing if I outsource? So I think when it comes to deciding what you're going to do and what type of position, is it a general virtual assistant? Is it a copywriter? Is it a tech VA? What is it, will be really eye-opening if you do a time study and start to just take away some of the things that you're doing so you can focus on higher level tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's actually finding the VA, right? And so that's one of the things we are currently building, a marketplace to find virtual assistants. And so I'm so excited. It'll launch in February 2022. So that's one of the things that we're really passionate about, is connecting business owners with virtual assistants, with freelancers, and finding somebody that's a good cultural fit too. Like, there's a couple marketplaces out there, but I feel like most of them are race to the bottom dollar, just very impersonal. And ours is going to really focus on community, cultural fits, trying to find a long-term person to help you in your business.
Instead of the Fiverr type, quick, easy access. Okay, can I just tell you something? I was literally on a walk this morning with my friend, and we were literally talking about this.
Really?
She's starting a business, and she's still in the beginning stages of her business. And I was just telling her about virtual assistants. And I was like, listen, it was a game changer, because along with everything that you have just said about what you need to assess when you're hiring somebody, I would also kind of tag in there, like, also, if there's any task that's on your table that you cringe about every single time you have to do it, think about it. And maybe you can outsource that to somebody else as well, unless it's something that only you can do. And then you just kind of have to like suck it up.
Yeah.
But we were literally talking about that. And then she was just asking me about mine. I was like, yeah, I'll share some names with you. She's like, well, is there a place where you can just get virtual assistants, like how Uber is and how this is? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I know there's Fiverr, but that's not really a virtual assistant concept. That's a one task done concept. And so this is really cool. I'm like, I literally was talking about this, and I'm like, this is a great idea though. Somebody should come up with this.
Yeah. I feel like it's a really big hole in the market, honestly. Right now, if somebody, and I mean, it's working. The current system works, but I feel like there's such an enhancement that could be made. Right now, if you need a virtual assistant, you if you have an email list, you email your list, you post in a couple Facebook groups, you ask friends, right? And those are amazing methods. And some of them, sometimes they can yield really great results, but this is going to be a place where you can post opportunities. People can respond, not just with a proposal, but also with a video. We're incorporating a lot of videos, so there's actual connection. We're going to do.
So excited.
You can like sort through profiles. So I want somebody who it'd be really nice if I could find somebody who already knows ConvertKit and Canva, right? So you'll be able to like sort them by tools. What tools do they know? And so, yeah, we're in the middle of development, and it's been really exciting. So I'm pumped to launch it.
Oh my God.
In the meantime, we do have a community where, anybody who wants to find a virtual assistant, you can post a job opportunity for free in our group. And that's at thevirtualsavvy.com/hire. It's just a form that you fill out, and then we will post it in our community.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Abby, I can't wait for that to actually launch, and you need to like, let me know. I'll be a part of it. I think it's like literally talking about it this morning and thinking like, man, that's a great idea. And of course, the visionary in me also is like, can I develop that? And I'm like, wait a second, calm down. You're a lawyer.
It's been on my heart for so long, and it's one of those things that we're talking about staying focused on one thing. I have literally had this vision for probably 2 years now, and I've had to just hold on to it. And there's something that has kept me saying, okay, you're gonna do this, but in the right time. And I really had to make sure that the Virtual Savvy, our online training program, the students that we're helping, that was going to continue. I mean, that's not just what provides for my family, but we have 20 full-time employees. So we had to make sure that the infrastructure was there to support me going on and pursuing a second business. Yeah. And it is now, and it's there, and the timing was right. And right around COVID too, where everyone was looking, it was just like, this is the time. Like, everybody is looking for remote work. Everybody is starting to grow their online businesses or be more open to the idea of hiring online. It's just time. So we started development. So it's coming fantastic.
Soon. And I kind of want to talk about this a little bit, not this marketplace, but more so about the virtual assistant concept, because I feel like, wow, if you're in the online business area, like if you're in that zone, you come across people and you come across the virtual assistant industry and people, and you understand what a VA means. But people who are not in this online business industry much, they really don't even know what a virtual assistant is, even though it's been around for so long.
Yeah.
Some people just don't understand what that means. And they also don't understand why that person would not be in the office. And so, how would you explain to somebody that this is what a virtual assistant does, and this is why you need them?
Yeah. So, I mean, like our technical definition is a virtual assistant is anyone that provides administrative, technical, or creative services remotely for small business owners. And I think there's a lot of benefits to the small business owner. First of all, a lot of business owners don't really fully understand the difference between an employee and a contractor, and how there's so much benefit to hiring contractors for your business. The fact that you can bring in an expert with their own systems, with their own tools, and no, you can't tell them, hey, you need to be working from 9 to 2 every day. But that's almost a benefit because you're going to get them working in their zone of genius when they're able to, and you're not having to pay for equipment and insurance and all of the things, right, that come along with normal employees. So I think there's a lot of just, educating small business owners of what is independent contracting, which is what all of, these virtual assistants are. And then the next thing is just the idea of, okay, these are tasks that can happen remotely. And I think that 2020 was a huge shift in the mindset of people realizing, man, work really can be done and done really well in a remote environment. And so I'm so happy, we've been using Zoom for years, and then the rest of the world now knows what it is, right? And I think it was a huge shift in people starting to understand, okay, people want to work remotely, people can work remotely and can do work really, really well, even if they're not physically in the office. And most of the work that small business owners do, I mean, obviously there's exceptions. If you have a physical location, if you're packing inventory, there might be things that you have to go to a physical location to do. But most of the business is done now. A lot of it can be done remotely, right? Even these physical businesses will sometimes hire virtual bookkeepers. One of our star students, she's on track to do $1 million in her business next year. She's a virtual assistant specifically for roofing companies, right? A very physical business, but she does their marketing. She does a lot of, assisting with some of the back end paperwork and things like that. And she's found a really specific niche. And for an industry that you would think oh, they're probably not up with the times of virtual work. And no, these companies, once they hear what she can do and the services that she can provide, they're all in, right? Because it's all the things that they don't want to be doing, right? They don't want to be in the office doing the paperwork and all of the things.
No.
So I think there's huge opportunity there.
That's so fantastic. And I feel like also when you're disrupting the industry, it's what I feel like even with your marketplace that you're going to bring out next year, and then even the way you're training and you're training the virtual assistants, you're disrupting the industry because you're really making it a very more refined industry than just oh yeah, I'll do this for you, right? That's why sometimes I feel like some people don't think it's as sophisticated, maybe not as formal as they may need one, but really it is. Everybody that I've worked with has been so professional, and they are 10 times smarter than me in everything that I've hired them for. And it's just I'm this is amazing. And so I would really encourage everybody listening, if you are in the moment of, do I need one? Do I need one? You probably need one then. And go for it. Even if it's somebody that may not be at the higher end, but even that the lower end of the budget, they're still going to provide you a service that you probably just don't want to do. And you need to outsource at this point.
Yeah. I love it. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think that is so cool. I'm just loving it. And I mean, honestly, I feel like it was meant to be. This conversation I literally just had.
That's so crazy.
I can't even get over this right now. It's so funny. Well, I want to talk about what you're doing right now. I feel like there's a lot of things that you are doing. And I think, are you still providing virtual assistant services as well?
So I actually don't. Nope.
I didn't think you were, because I'm like, there's a lot going on with you.
And no, it got to the point, the course started taking off to the point that I decided to not do I kept a few of my like favorite clients on for a really long time, but then it got to the point where, my role was best seen as CEO. The course was providing a lot more than those services were at that point. So I've literally had my students go on to do more than I ever did, which is so great, because honestly, now what has happened is that we have taken our students. I almost feel like it's caused me to listen to my students more. The fact that I'm not a virtual assistant anymore, because we hire our students all the time. So most of my employees were actually students of the course, built their own businesses. Many of them are still working on the side as virtual assistants just because they want to, right? And that's something that we're okay with at our company. And then, we're listening to our students all the time. We hire our students even as coaches, so they're helping one another. And so we've created this community of collaboration, which I love doing, because again, visionary, not as into the detail work. So me personally providing virtual assistant services, it's probably better if I train other people who are really, really good at it. And I'm grateful for it, because it opened up this huge door to what we have now. But we're able to pull in the different types of people where, my big focus as a VA was a lot of creative work and copywriting, like that's a lot of the creative end. And so I'll still lean my support in a lot of teaching those types of subjects, but I wasn't great at, systems and technical work and things like that. So we've been able to bring in people who have knowledge in those areas as well. So I don't do that anymore. Maybe someday we'll start another agency or something, but that's not in the cards for now. Again, one thing at a time. So I'm currently, helping still run the Virtual Savvy, the training program, although I have an amazing team that honestly does most of the work there. And then now my main focus is building this secondary business. It's called Hello Savvy, and it is just going to be a place for communication, cultural fit, in finding a VA or creative freelancer. So that's really where my full focus is right now. And then once that has gotten to a place where it is up and running and sustainable, who knows what'll be in the future.
That's so awesome. There's so much growth and there's so much vision there, like things that, and it's just really, it's really cool. I love seeing what you're doing also. And so if somebody like for the Virtual Savvy, for coming in and training with you, what are you teaching them? Are you training them just how to use certain tools or how to build their business? What are some of the things that you're training them on?
So we have both. We have two products that we primarily sell over at the Virtual Savvy. I guess three. We just launched a third one. So I'll tell you about all three. The first is our Savvy system, which is step-by-step. Here's how to start a virtual assistant business. Here's how to choose your services, your marketing, your good quality contracts, right? Because you have to have a contract whenever you're working with somebody. Here is how you market. Here's how you hire subcontractors. Here's everything that is business in a box, how to build a business, right? How to start it, grow it, scale it. That is the business building program called the Savvy system. We have another program called Savvy Vault, which is our tech training membership. So we have over 70 tech courses, Canva, ConvertKit, Amazon store setup, Zoom, right? Like all of the tech that somebody would need to know. And then we add at least one new course every single month. So that's just a monthly membership. People can join, they can come and go as they need it. They could come in and just take one course and then cancel. But most of our students come in and then they just love having that as kind of a back pocket resource too, right? If a client says, hey, I'm thinking about switching from Teachable to Kajabi or Kajabi to Teachable, right? And I'm actually taking a course in Kajabi. Let me jump into it right now, and like having it as a back pocket resource. So that's our tech training membership. And then our third product, we just developed this last year, honestly, as a result of listening to our students. We had students who had been in the Savvy system. We've had thousands of students go through, and they were asking like, kind of what's next? I've replaced my income. I've quit my job. I'm working from home, but I still want to grow beyond this, right? Like, how do I transition to higher end services? And instead of making $3,000 or $4,000 a month, How do I make 10, 15, 20,000 a month in my business? And so we did develop a higher end coaching program called Savvy Circle that we just released this past year as well. So those are our three main products, or really our only three products that we sell over at the Virtual Savvy.
Oh, wow. That is so fantastic and so needed, because there's no school that trains you on this stuff. And so it's so
Right.
cool that you saw that need and you created a school for that. And I hope everybody listening who is even remotely interested in this would like really look you up and see if this would be a good fit, because I'm like, oh gosh, I think I just might need the vault for myself, because because there's so many times where I'm just like, I don't know how to do this. I just need to do this. And you can take all these different, I don't know, but that is just so cool that you've actually provided this wonderful full service educational program for, virtual assistants. And I think obviously it's growing, it's making an impact because people are coming back to you again, asking for more. And so I think that is also such a, important thing for a CEO to keep listening to their clients, to keep listening to their community, to see what else they can keep providing.
Yeah, for sure.
That is really, really cool. So are there any other tips that you could give to our listeners today about something about virtual assistants or even building their business?
Yeah. One of our core values here is action over perfection. And I can tend to be a perfectionist, as I think most of us will. And I think that, you're going to get it wrong sometimes. You're going to mess up. You're going to hire the wrong person or invest in the wrong program or choose the wrong service or launch a product that doesn't go well. But it's not so much about getting it perfect every time. It's just that you keep going forward motion, action, right? Keep taking those actions because they do compound over time. So action over perfection. Sometimes you have to launch before it's perfect. Sometimes you have to step out before you feel 100% comfortable or confident, but that's where the real magic happens.
Absolutely. And also sometimes the questions that you're asking before you start and before you launch are answered in the imperfection launch.
Exactly.
And I say that with absolute experience right now. I just did that with my own business. I launched a subscription program for law, and I did it without really it being perfect. But through that, I got a lot of the answers that I was waiting on.
Exactly.
And I wasn't getting them. And so it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm glad I just did that. And so, I completely agree with you that it is progress over perfection. So
for sure.
Yeah. And so I know you talked a little bit about the contracts that you have in your business in a box. And so I'm going to just kind of touch on this really quickly, but the law, have you ever had something where you're like, oh man, I wish I had done that beforehand? Obviously you think contracts are important. So
so I will go into a ton of details, but we have been involved in a lawsuit before, and it was over a bad contract if we boiled it down. And now I'm like, guys, contracts are so important. They're so important. Having yourself legally covered. I mean, it not only was incredibly expensive to go through that process, and at the end of the day, it worked out in our favor. We were being, sued very unjustly for sure. It worked out very well, but I can't tell you the finances that it took, right? Like our profit took a hit that year for sure in the business, but emotionally the toll that it took as well. And so much of it could have been remedied with a better contract. Like I literally had an agreement with a person that we had pulled a contract off the internet, and it was so bad. So we literally, we have legal counsel now that she's literally integrated into our Slack channel, and we pay her monthly just to say like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I know that that's not available to most people when they're first starting out. Right.
Yeah.
But how do you, and we need that now because we have this huge business to protect and employees to protect. But what do you need to protect at this point in your business? And most of the times it's going to be really found in the contract dealings that you have with other people. So I cannot recommend having good contracts.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think having a good contract can make or break a dispute. And sometimes we think, especially when you're starting and you're beginning your business, you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to like make this contract from Google. And then you have this like Frankenstein of a contract.
Yep.
And which may or may not work at the time. And, you know, hopefully you're not getting into those disputes where you are going to court. But really, contracts help also just manage the expectations of the parties and the relationship, and helps you really navigate when you are having some type of a dispute or discrepancy in what's happening. So I'm glad that you're sorted with that. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. It was 6 months. It was actually, you know, it was a really defining time in my business too. That was a period where I mean, I was just crying most days because it's just emotionally just a very heavy thing. I'm a people pleaser. So I'm not sure if the lawsuit stunk more or the fact that I'm like, there's somebody halfway across the country who hates me like enough to sue me. Like that was like harder for me. No, I mean, kind of. So, yeah, so that was very interesting. But I will say it was during that time also, and this is, you know, hopefully it doesn't take you guys going through a lawsuit for this to happen. But when you're going through the difficult times, the ups and the downs, that was definitely a down point, right, in the business. And at that point, I felt so strongly that, you know, Abby, if you're going to do big things, you have to develop tough skin. And I don't know if I'm naturally a tough skin person, but I feel like maturing as a business owner has forced me to create tougher skin. And there's sometimes where I'll have to look at a decision. So let's say we have to let somebody go, right? An employee, which hasn't happened often. I think maybe once or twice, and it's always ended well, but it's never comfortable, right? To have to do something like that. But what I'll have to do is say, okay, like, look at this really, like, what is best for the business? Like, take emotion completely out of it. And I put emotion in everything, so that's hard, but I take emotion completely out of it. Objectively, what is right? Okay. And we make the right decision objectively. And then we put emotion back into it. Okay. Now that we know this is the right decision, how do we go about it in a way that is going to, you know, be kind and respectful and friendly and or whatever it may be, right? Like, how do we put the heart back into it? And so that's been huge for me as a business owner to learn how to make those just tough decisions. And I'm a person that naturally leads with my heart, so how to kind of lead with my head a little bit. Maybe you're a person that naturally leads with your head, so you need to maybe lead with your heart a little bit and then put the logic in, right? Maybe you have to reverse it. But yeah, that's been really, really big for me, is learning how to develop tougher skin in this whole process as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm so glad you actually pointed that out, because we do go through different seasons in our business, seasons that are so tough, and then some that you're just gliding through. But the tough seasons are what makes you better at what you're doing. It makes you better as a leader. It makes you better as a CEO, and probably also will get you prepared for the next time. Something like that might, you know, pop up, or, you know, some similar type of challenge. So thank you so much for sharing that. Also, I appreciate that. I know sometimes it's really hard to sometimes just share the vulnerabilities, but I think we all have them. And that's what I love about every single guest that comes through Law Chat, is that everyone has had those moments where you're just sitting there thinking, what am I doing? And why am I doing this? And do I really need to keep going? So I'm so happy we were able to have those conversations today with you. And so before we say goodbye, I wanted to just ask you some quick, fun questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so what are some of your books that you love reading, whether it's professional or self-development or just fiction, you know, just for fun?
Yeah. So I love business books. Like, that's pretty much, I wish I had time for fiction, but I don't make time for fiction, I would say. So Clockwork, Mike Michalowicz, great books. Systems, leaning into those systems. I also, Austin McNeely wrote a book called From 6 to 7 Figures, and it's a lot about systems as well. And I really love to read things that I'm not naturally good at. So those two books were game changers in my business.
Yeah. So do you read, like when you're making time to read, is it at night? Is it during the day? Like how does your reading time come into your life?
Honestly, I'm not great at it. So what I did is I put it on my daily checklist. So I have like a every morning, I literally have to force myself to, just because my life is crazy and
Carve that time out.
I don't sit very well. Like I'm just like, doing this, right? And my mind wanders. And so I'll only make it through like 2 or 3 books a year. Like I'm just not. So I'll put it on my daily checklist, and then I just have like a book like sitting next to me, and that's the book that I'll grab. It's leadership development time is what I put in my checklist, and I'm like, okay, let me just read something. And so I'll read like 1 chapter and then put it back and get back to work, right? Just I'm putting something in.
I love that because it's so hard to read. I love reading, but finding that time during the day, it's so hard. And by the time the evening comes up, I'm so tired that while I'm reading, I'm falling asleep. And so I love that you actually label it as leadership development, because now it's like, okay, it's part of my daily routine and I'm developing myself.
Yes. And sometimes it's not reading, honestly. Like sometimes I'll read a blog article, or I will listen to part of a podcast or a training that somebody did. It's not always reading, which is why I don't make it through books very quickly. I love them, right? Like I love it, but it's just, that's just not always the best at it.
It's a small mindset shift in the sense of adding some element to your business or to your daily routine, where you can now say, okay, I got to do this because it's leadership development time. I mean, it just literally just clicked with me right now. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Well, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what are some of your favorite biz tools?
Like tools for running my business?
Like running.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're huge Canva fans. Like we use Canva all the time in the business. We, what are some of the others? We recommend Dubsado to a lot of our students. That's a huge one for email. I love ConvertKit, and the ConvertKit for our email has been awesome. Part of it is I just really love the company. Like I used to go to their conferences every year when they had conferences. Hopefully they'll start back up again sometime. And I really believe in the mission of their company. They're just I know a lot of people who've worked there, and it's been, I really like their company. So, we use Kajabi as our course platform. We've been really happy with that. Those are, some of the basic tools. Loom. I use Loom. We use Loom like every single day in the business.
I love
Slack for communication. So, those are the basic tools that we use.
Awesome. And if someone wants to contact you and say hello, where do they find you?
Yeah, so thevirtualsavvy.com is the best place to go. We have contact information there. I hang out on Instagram too at the Virtual Savvy. And you can also check out Hello Savvy. It's just a wait list right now, but hellosavvy.com has kind of the vision behind that new strategy that we're going for the marketplace. So check that out as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Law Chat, sharing your story and sharing your tips and wisdom. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girija. I just love these kind of conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girija. If this was helpful to you or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.